Okay, so we will begin. I hope you had a nice lunch. Our next talk is really focusing on the 3-day workshop that just happened in Brantford, so finished yesterday at 1 p.m. And so we've been working with the team of 6 selected institutions and the Brant Museum and Archives staff to reorganize a storage area there. And so we have 2 speakers who will just explain what all happened in those 3 days. So we have Justin Butler, who is from the Brant Museum and Archives, and Karen Bachmann as well from Timmins Museum, who will be the co-presenter. So Karen, if you would like to come up and do another very entertaining presentation for us.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. So, I'm Justin Butler, and okay, let's start with what I actually have written. Hello, I'm Justin Butler, and you may remember me from such presentations as That's Not Fries in Your Archives, That's the Deterioration of Nitrate Films, and Hoarding or Collecting, Synonyms. For those who are probably all confused, which is all of you, the late, great comedian Phil Hartman is actually from Brantford, and this is one of his characters from The Simpsons, that little quote. So welcome to Brantford. So I work at the Brant Museum and Archives. Okay, sorry. Is this better? Okay, so Brant Museum and Archives, specifically, we're part of the Brant Historical Society. Which was established in 1908 and was based out of the basement of the Carnegie Library, as seen here. It's now a Laurier building. The mission of the Brant Historical Society is to preserve the history of Brantford, Brant County, and the Six Nations / New Credit Reserve. The museum stayed in the basement of the library until 1951, and until then, after that, it moved to our current location at Charlotte Street. The majority of the displays that are currently up at the museum were actually built in 1968 and haven't changed since. And the word archive was added to the title of the museum in the early 90s due to the museum's large archival collection. So this is the Charlotte Street residence. We also manage 2 other sites. The first is Myrtleville, which is the second oldest house in Brantford and was previously owned by the Good family. The only location older is the Mohawk Chapel. The other site, which you're currently at, is the museum site, mall site, obviously. It was officially opened in 1994, but kind of slowly closed with the dying of this mall. However, it is slowly being reopened as a cultural center of sorts. So, before reorg, starting in July 2013, we've been doing a project known as the Inventory Project. So much like everyone here, our collection is massive and horribly out of shape. We don't actually have a lot of pictures of the before and after because I am horrible at remembering to do that. So this is kind of what one section of it looked like before, and then afterwards it's different. It's better. Everything's been tagged, there's less, it's more organized, so on and so forth. So the collection at the Brant Museum and Archives has largely been stated at 60,000 individual items. For example, we have 10,000 photos, probably a few thousand textiles, 50 or so hair wreaths, and so much more. And part of the inventory project is to go through the entire collection, inventory it, catalog it, accession it, digitize it, aka put it into Past Perfect, and all that other stuff. Yeah, sorry. Yay. However, the inventory project has discovered that 60,000 is a lie. It's probably closer to 80 to 100,000. Of these items, during this 1.5-year process, we have entered approximately 10,000, and we've probably fixed that many. Because within Past Perfect, we have lovely things such as their location as see location card. That tells me nothing. I hate that so much. Or there's lovely provenances. For example, we had one of a pillowcase that said, a pillow can't go into this case. Therefore, we believe that the case was put on top of the pillow. That's not provenance. That is telling me that this is not a pillowcase. So the inventory team, because I'm going to do a little shout out, because why not, is myself. We have John Job, who is in the front, with Heather McLeod, and formerly Carissa White, who went off to iSchool because she knew better. And the rest of the staff, since everyone else covered their staff, we have 3 other staff members. No, 4. Yes, 4. We have Nathan, who is the programming officer. Chris, who is the media guy, who's over there. Lana Job, who is our executive director. And we have Sarah Thomas, who is our education officer, and the only person at Myrtleville, which is kind of scary. Okay, so as you can see, we have a huge project that we've been working on. And Reorg kind of fit perfectly with that. So we jumped at the chance to be part of Reorg. We weren't chosen to be one of the individual 6 teams. However, we were offered to host the workshop and the conference, and we're like, yeah, let's do that. So this is what the back office used to look like. This is also our archive and where I was forced to work. As you can see, there are boxes everywhere. This is actually the archive shelves, specifically those were known as the I don't want to deal with this shelf that the inventory project inherited, and it's like, we will do this later because it is a mess. And in the back is the wall. Oh, whoa. So in the back is the wall, as you can see. Here's a map. So this was our work area. Ugh. And then this was the area beside it. So this area specifically was used as another, I don't know what to do with this, let's put it in here, or large object storage, which the inventory project dealt with. And as you can see, there's this wasted space, which was realistically used to hide old burnt out light bulbs for some reason. And then the archives itself was this narrow area that was slowly being consumed by the inventory project as we found more archival items and packed them up. So, light bulbs done. So, in order to prepare for Reorg, Simon came in October. He had a little plan, which is currently not up here, but you'll see that in the coming pictures. And the plan was to take down this wall in order to expand it all out, which we did. So myself, John, and Chris tore down a wall, which is both exciting and terrifying at the same time because you're in a museum. Yes, so we tore down the wall and we moved everything out first, and we put it in the library location in the programming room, which you will see in a bit in the future presentations, and it looks horrible. It usually doesn't. I want to preface that. It usually doesn't have like beams flying out of everywhere because we had to put it somewhere, and then it was put away. So part of this, in order to get the funding for the shelves, we had to apply to the Museum Assistance Program, or MAP. This is a program run through Heritage Canada, and we are grateful for their assistance. After that, after we tore down the wall, we actually got 2 contractors to come in by the name of John Rockwell and Gordon Clark, which built us a lovely new wall, and at that point we were prepared for Reorg. And that's what I got.
So apparently on Monday of this week, CCI arrived on their white Chargers, or in their gray van, whatever it is at this point. And I'd like to introduce that team who came. Please introduce yourselves to this lovely group, because there were 3 people who showed up on Monday, making our lives much easier when we showed up on Tuesday. So Simon.
Kelly Johnson.
And.
Alicia Gadban.
So Alicia arrived on. So all of these wonderful people arrived on Monday and had a little confab with the people who were at the archives, and they came up with ideas about how things are going to be run and how we should be getting things organized. And then the White Charger team from CCI went back to the hotel and went, wow, we don't want to let everybody else plan out what's going to happen because we're going to have 40 different plans and everybody's going to have an idea. So they played dictators, and they came, which was very good, and I cannot stress this enough. You need a dictator for your project. They came up with what we were going to be doing. So when we arrived, fresh and relaxed and prepared on Tuesday morning, they started our day off with letting us know about how we were going to organize things. So they divided us up, first of all, into 3 groups. Or the plan was divided into 3 groups. We didn't start with dividing ourselves up yet. So the first section of the plan, and I'm going to go through this, and then we're going to go through the slides so you'll get a better idea about what we were looking at. And what kind of detail you're looking at with this kind of plan. So there was the first group, which were going to be deemed the library crew, and they had the glamorous job of removing the trash from the library, reconfiguring the library, creating areas for temporary non-collection storage, what stays on the ground floor, what should be going to the basement. Then they were asked to bring the non-collection stuff to the basement. We got out of that. Building shelving in the program space, removing old compact shelving from the archival storage area, and bring up to the program room. Pardon me. And they had to set up an area in the archival storage for supplies. Are you overwhelmed yet? That was group 1. The second group, the archival group, which are the blue people over there. They were asked to set up the collections area in the program room. Our tasks are going to be, again, to remove trash, move textiles rack to the upstairs, mop the floors twice, assemble new shelving and tracks, transfer boxes and archival material to the new shelves, and everything else that was going to be repatriated from across the building that looked like an archival piece. And then the last group, which were the how should we put it? The unsung heroes of the entire project, our basement crew. And they were going to, were tasked with removing the trash, reconfiguring the basement, regrouping the tools and organizing the basement, relocating and fixing shelves from the old archival storage to the basement, relocate empty archival boxes to the basement, relocate non-collections to the basement, and reconfigure the education corner, including installing the old compact shelving into that area. So when we all looked at that, we went, wow. When can we go home? And why are we here? And oh my God, why did I sign up for this? But it worked out really, really well. It did work out really, really, really well because the plan was set up. We toured the building early on in the morning. We got to see the areas before we decided which areas we felt like we were able to tackle. So we had areas like this, which I believe is your archives, with the blue tarp and the new walls and all of these wonderful things, sort of what we got to see. In the area that was deemed as some of those repository area and the program area was filled with the boxes from the shelves that were still in boxes. We had little areas to work in, and we had to delineate and split this up so that we could put some of the collections pieces in here. This is the library, where a lot of the pieces were just migrating to so that we could start with the process. So we looked in that room and thought, yeah, that looks like fun. And the interesting things that came out of that room include 3 pieces of tombstone, a jail cell door, a little settee that we didn't know that was going to go to the curb, didn't go to the curb, going to go to the curb, stayed where it is. Drawers that I never found actually where they actually came from, so that was kind of cool. Now, this is the basement area. Part of it, just a part of the basement area. There's a second portion of it. I believe there's a slide a little bit later on that shows the other portion that actually doesn't have a floor in it, and it's sort of a dirt floor kind of area. Kind of cramped, short-ceilinged, poor light, poor air quality, as the people who work down there could attest. And so they suited up in order to deal with those scenarios. And they did a marvelous job, absolutely marvelous job. We also had Susan from the Collingwood Museum who did a lot of archival work, and she was set up in our lunch area and started to go through some of the work that needed to be done there. So day 1, we actually plowed through a lot of work and got a lot of things settled up, got the library cleaned out, set up our staging areas. The basement crew we didn't see all day and we had to go rescue, but they seemed to be clean and good. They came out okay. So they were doing some fabulous work down there. So That was day one. We worked on it. Day two, we started to really get into building shelves. Day one, actually, we started to do them, but day two, we really got it finished and completed and done. And we moved from having all of those boxes to having just the beautiful shelving units, which were then transferred into that area. That was that initial archives area. And that's actually more towards the end, almost towards the end, when we were getting things together. The plan was initially to run 2 separate shelving units, but as the days progressed and discussion happened with the staff and they started to think about how things would really work, the plan altered a little bit. And that's the other thing to keep in mind, that while you may have a dictator, he may not always be right. So you have the option to change things as it goes along, because it's that's the way it should be. That is the storage, that is that initial area that had all of those boxes piled in it and that had all of those different things, and a little corner, which was the education corner. We cleared it all out. The space is much more manageable. It has a large area that can be used for programming now. We actually moved in there afterwards and set up lunch tables and had a great time. So those kinds of things happened during the course. That was the end of day 3, actually. So in the library, as things got piled out, things got put back in there. But again, we used it as a staging area. We reconfigured and got a lot of the non-collection stuff. A lot of particularly the material needed to do collections work, was amassed in one area. And then a lot of the other stuff, which was light bulbs and boxes and all those wonderful doodads, they found their way downstairs. So those boxes actually went to live in the basement for a while, till we then decided that we needed them and had to haul them back up. But anyways, we do things backwards too while we do this. So that's what the library ended up looking like when we finished. Just nice usable space again, and something that can be done. Now upstairs was another area. This was called the creepy baby room. And it was called the creepy baby room because in that little crib was a little creepy baby. And staff seemed to have called that the creepy baby room for a long time. But that was also where a lot of the archival material was stored. So we started hauling that downstairs to the main floor. And once that was cleared, and lo and behold, behind there was a shelving unit that had a number of things in there that Justin and his crew cleared out, leaving the little ships, which I thought were really cool in there. So that is what now Creepy Baby Room looks like. Very nice, very neat, very, very well done. Back to le basement, where we have, I can say we, isn't that nice? They put up some shelving units and started to move a lot of that non-collections material down there. So they progressed and went along with it, did some wonderful work, and then ended, this is the other area, that's the other area in the basement that had moldy problems, and that was kind of creepy, and that's why we made Simon work there. What can you do? What can you do? So once he got that cleared out, then Charles could move in and do his work, so that was cool too. So the other thing that worked really, really well was we, in our programming space, that was sort of our meeting space and our, where we put collections and all that stuff, we got together and we worked on that chart. So once we completed a task, or partially the task, we could all go in and just color it up. So it was this really feel-good kind of thing as you saw things turn red and as you played with this kind of scenario. So then it became a definite must-check, and can we move the bar just a little bit more? And it really made everybody feel really, really good. So we ended up with this at the end of day 2, which then allowed us to come up with the final sprint, which was day 3. And the final sprint was to finish bringing the archival boxes into storage, bring the textile racks upstairs, clean the library, number the shelves and record all the locations on one sheet, find home for stray racks, move the piano into the gift shop, yay. I didn't do that though, so I'm very happy. Move the land registry books, dismantle and move the display cases, and then the final cleanup. So we looked at that, and we actually got all of that done between about 9:15 and 12 noon, so it's kind of cool. And it all worked out well. And what was really nice with the project is that there were a lot of people working on it. And you could set up chain things so you didn't have to go up and down stairs forever and ever and ever. There was lots of work happening where people were just sort of circulating. While we had our groups, we just all sort of went and worked where it was needed. It was a very fluid kind of thing. It was very, very cool. We ended up with that was the initial plan. We ended up with the one row, though, of the shelving, and some of the free-floating shelves and larger pieces ended up where that second row was going to be. We had some nice area created for workers so that you could actually be in the space and do some work. So we went from this to that in 3 days, which I thought was pretty amazing. So I'm just going to go through a few lessons learned. So planning and identification of tasks and the creation of that Gantt chart to help celebrate successes, absolutely necessary. The creation of a dictator, absolutely necessary. And committed team members, crews who know what needs to be done and can go ahead and do it, absolutely necessary. Because there was no standing around, and there was no, not because you felt like standing around, but because you knew that you could go and help somebody else, and it was a spectacular working scenario. I wish my place was going to go like that, and I know it won't, but I can hope. Really, really important for us was to have staff guidance, and the staff were always on hand to clear up issues and help make decisions. So we didn't go through there and say, this is junk, this isn't good, you should keep this, you should do that. Why are you not doing this? How come you're not doing that? We didn't do that. We had a good discussion with the staff, and I think they can echo that, I hope. But I thought it was a really nice relationship, and we really got to do some really good work with all of them. Always remember that the plan can be altered as you go along. So we saw that with the placement of the shelves and all of those things, and reconfiguring things to meet the needs of the staff and the collection, because while it might look good on paper, once you start to do it and put it together, you might figure out that you don't want to be sitting with all of that junk around you, or whatever. What Alicia could not be more adamant about this: document what is going on. Do photos, do videos. It's really, really important. That way you can track your successes. You can let your governing bodies also know that, yeah, progress is happening, and no, we're not just sitting around. Yes, all of this good stuff is happening. And also, don't be shy to let the public know what's going on. We had media in the day before, whatever. Anyways, media was in, board members were in, volunteers were in, and there was a nice little buzz happening, and I think it's really important to get your communities involved in this, because after all, they are community collections, and I think letting those people know what's happening is super important, and then they'll be your supporters forever. Because keeping all of this, our dirty little secrets in the closet, not healthy. And then always remember, and it's my favorite one, what looks really daunting and insurmountable, and you saw our spaces, well, I can tell you all 6 of us have said, you know what, our spaces don't look that bad, we can deal with this. Having done this, we thought, no problem, piece of cake. So I congratulate all of the 6 museums that were participating in this. It was a fabulous experience, and we'd do it again, because we're going to be the crack team for Ontario now. There you go.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was an amazing presentation. It was... And thank you, Lana. I really want to thank the Brant Museum and Archives for accepting to host the workshop. We asked a lot of you guys, and you've always stepped up to the plate and delivered even above and beyond. And so it's just been a really great experience this week, and getting to know you better, and just working together has been really powerful, I think, for all of us. So thank you very much. And with that, I don't know if anyone has any questions for, yes, I see a question at the back there. Oops.
Hello.
Do I have to introduce myself once again?
You can if you want to.
I prefer not to. So just one simple question. Is there a reference to the boxed shelving that you used for this project? It looks a bit like metro shelving.
It's called X5 shelving. I believe it's kind of like metro shelving. Or do you want to?
It's X5 shelving, and it is rolls on tracks, but they aren't attached to the floor, so they are easy to move around. They just fit into each other, just like a toy train track, and it moves very easily. You can also take it off and put casters on, as long as you don't overload it.
Thank you.
That particular one was from the Car McLean. Uline also carries it, and Gaylord, but they were going to charge us $1,000 shipping, so we didn't do that.
Hi, my name is Kirsty, and I'm doing an internship at the Kelsey Museum of Archaeology. And my main project is doing a rehousing of just the ceramics in the collections. So this is a question to all the museums. It sounds like all of them were mixed collections, and I was wondering if there are particular challenges in moving different object types, or whether they were all dealt with together.
Does one of the teams want to answer that question? You will? Okay.
So to clarify, the question was like moving different object types, right?
Yeah, if there was all categories together, or if there were specific challenges with like one person. Yeah, if they were all categories as they were objects, so they were dealt similarly compared to like archival documents, or if there were like specialized collections that needed special solutions.
Okay, so we have, like I said, 80,000 objects, right? Insane. To make things simpler for our collections, we actually developed a color code. So from the get-go, ceramics are green, metal is purple, and so on and so forth. They're all handled differently. Obviously, with ceramics, you have to be more careful. And in the case of our collection, specific rooms were declared ceramic room. So we had the opportunity to just deal with one type at a time, basically. So when handling ceramics, it was more of a slow go. And we weren't wearing gloves. You don't want to wear cotton gloves. You can wear nitrile, but you can't wear cotton because everything's slippy, and you don't grab from the handles, you want to grab from the base. Whereas if you're dealing with metal objects, it's usually heavier. So that's more, it takes two people, basically, at times. But at the same time, it's not as scary, I would say. Working with ceramics is terrifying. Where metal objects, it's like, I don't want to drop this, but if it happens, it's not going to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Whereas if we go into textiles or archival documents, these are vastly different than your normal artifacts because they're usually the same but different material types. And be careful of glass, be careful of everything. Wear gloves when it's metal because of rust and all that. Archival, you have to be exceptionally careful. They're also going to be stored differently because if you accidentally make a slight misstep, that document can now be ripped. You're not also going to be dealing with paper all the time. Sometimes you'll have, like in the case of photos, you'll have nitrate, you'll have tin types. It varies. Or land registries, not land registries. Old land deeds are on vellum, so it's basically skin at that point. In terms of storing that and dealing with it, larger ones you want to put in map cabinets because you don't want to fold these things ever. Because once they crease, they're creased for life. For smaller documents, you're going to put them in individual envelopes so they're protected. They kind of have a little environment and you don't have to worry about dust and whatnot getting into them, and then they go into their archival boxes and they get their special archival system, which it takes forever, but it's like really ideal because you know everything. Textiles, again, kind of like archival, but at the same time, they're objects. They're archival in the sense of you never want to fold them. So you are either going to hang them if they can handle it, or they're going to be in the giant boxes. So textiles, they take up a lot of space. Hopefully I answered your question, or maybe I just rambled.
Thanks, that was very thorough. Thank you. Perfect.